Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Every Voice, Every Vote Moving into Action foundational training. My name is Lily Heyman. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a legislative assistant here at the Religious Action Center. Before we dive into this evening's training, let's first go over a few technical notes. During the call, closed captioning is available. To turn closed captioning on or off, please click the live transcript icon at the bottom ribbon of your Zoom window. You can move the closed caption text by clicking and dragging it to your desired location on your screen. A quick note that we will be using breakout rooms later this evening. Our current closed captioning service does not enable us to have closed captioning in breakout rooms, so we only have the capability to provide closed captioning in the main room. So please message me if you would like closed captioning during breakout rooms. We also will be using the chat box intermittently throughout the call. Please click on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen to open the chat box. And lastly, we are recording the training and we'll share it after the programming for anyone who is unavailable to join us live. So let's get started with some introductions. I want to see where everyone is coming from. Let's take a couple minutes to introduce ourselves in the chat. Please share your name, pronouns, congregation, city, and state. And I'd also love to hear what inspired you to come to this training. Why are you here? We have some folks from Chicago. Where else? Los Angeles, Cape Cod, Dallas, Long Beach, Coral Springs, Florida, Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, Charlottesville, I see some people are here because of concern for our democracy. Me too. Getting the youth out to vote, voter turnout. What else? What brings you here? To feel inspired because you love the Reclaim Our Vote program. Me too. Yeah, to get out the vote. This is all great. Some desperation, worry for the future. Everyone's vote does matter. Absolutely. Yeah, making people feel like their votes matter. That's really important. And I welcome everyone. I'm really excited that you are here and we can jump right in. So the goals of the training. Participants will understand the connection between voter suppression and white supremacy and our role in fighting for racial justice and how to be effective partners across difference. Participants will understand the mission of Reclaim Our Vote, our partners, and the strategy and impact of postcarding and our role in the effort. Participants will understand the impact of relational organizing and how to use key relational organizing tactics to build and strengthen their voter engagement team. And we want you to feel prepared to lead through this campaign and move your congregations, communities, and personal networks into action. So for the agenda for this training session, we'll go through our key principles of being an effective partner from a READY lens, racial equity, diversity, inclusion lens. We'll hear from our partner, Andrea Miller, and Reclaim Our Vote, and learn a little bit about them. We'll hear a personal story from Justin, and then we will get into the nuts and bolts of relational organizing with Jacob. So, as a predominantly white Jewish movement, we must acknowledge our role in this fight as people who both benefit from and are harmed by white supremacy. Anti-Semitism, racism, and bigotry are all linked. And our liberation is bound together. And like Rabbi Jonah Pesner says a lot, our safety is in our solidarity. So today we will learn about how we can be effective partners and build sustainable relationships in multi-faith and multiracial coalitions. Our individual identities impact how we engage in and how we show up to these partnerships. As predominantly white organizers, we can use our privilege to support existing efforts and follow the lead and expertise of BIPOC-led organizations. So I am now pleased to introduce Jordan Berg-Powers, a RAC leader and executive director at Mass Alliance, who will be teaching us why it is important that we do this work through a ready and anti-oppressive lens and what it means to be an effective and supportive partner. Jordan, take it away.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Berg-Powers. As said before, I use the He, Him series. In my day job, I'm the executive director of an organization called Mass Alliance. And I also obviously come from the Jewish community, and I myself go to a synagogue that's technically unaffiliated called Beth Tikva. But I've been really proud and honored to be a part of the Jubilation Fellowship that the URJ put on to support, guide, and provide leadership for different cohorts of marginalized parts of our Jewish community, of our Reform movement, and the cohort I was a part of were Jews of color. And so we really do sit at this intersection of these issues, right? Issues that affect people of color, that affect our lived experiences, our lived histories, and as well as the ways in which they intersect with with the sort of policies that we want to push. I'm coming to you from Nipmuc land here in Massachusetts, now called Worcester, Massachusetts. And I'm just so honored to be here to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. So as you can see here, this is adorable pictures of me as a little kid. And I'm sorry if you've heard me tell this story again, but I think it's foundational to how I think about these issues. When I was a little kid and when I was this kid, I would beg my mom for a dog. I really wanted a dog, and I would constantly ask her for a dog. And every time, and she would just say, no, no, no. She just sort of shushed me off. And, as a kid, I heard a lot of the stories of the works that she did. I got lots of books about Black history. And so I had a good understanding. I had a 5-year-old or 6-year-old understanding of these issues, but I knew something about it. And so one day, my mom pulled up her skirt. This is not a picture of my mom, but this is a light picture. She pulled up pulled up her skirt, and there were bite marks all up her legs. And she had been a part of trying to organize voters and register voters in the South when she was a young person, a college student. And so she just said, I don't like dogs. And I was like, all right, we're not getting a dog. For a lot of people, this isn't just sort of a story. And frankly, for Jews of color, this isn't just a story we read in history books. This comes alive at our kitchen tables. When I was a kid, I heard all the stories with my grandparents, who were civil rights beacons in their own right, of the importance of voting and voting rights. These were passed on to me the same way Jewish traditions have historically been passed on, generation to generation, verbally to verbally, person to person. And so I heard, and as Dr. King so eloquently made clear in his speech, give us the ballot and we will transform the South. So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot live as a democratic citizen, end quote of Dr. King. So all rights flow from this important right, the right to vote. We understand that if you think about it, you need a say to have a say over your own future, right? You need to have a say. Democracy, all of our other rights flow from our democratic rights, which is why so much effort has been put in to taking away those rights, especially of Black folks, but obviously people of color across histories in America. But we also know that there's this other thing that Dr. King so eloquently pointed out. I Have a Dream speech is famous and everyone knows it, but I think rarely do people remember this part. And this is the part that I think about because this is the part that so much intertwines with the work I do on a day-to-day basis at Mass Alliance. Quote, we cannot be satisfied so long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and the Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. For too many people, voting has not led to better outcomes in their lives. What do we do when democracy becomes disconnected from positive outcomes? I like to say that voting is too often hope over experience. And so people are rightly disillusioned and hopeless by this system. Not voting, not engaging in the process is often a logical conclusion to the work to our society. And according to research, according to one research paper I saw from the Analyst Institute, it takes 6 to 8 years for non-voters to become into sometimes voters, and it takes a commitment to that community from trusted players to turn non-voters into sometimes voters. So we have to deal with both of these things. We both have to make it easier for people to vote. We need to push back in every possible way on the backwards from the fights that we've won against Jim Crow. We need to fight back and ensure that people are allowed to vote, and we need to make it easier to vote. We need to go further, right? We need to make it easier so that people who don't yet know that they are critical to the future of this country, that it is easy for them once they decide to engage in this process, that it's easy for them to do so. And also, we need to not come with this idea that people who aren't voting are lesser than, or don't understand, or don't really get the issues. People are making rational decisions. Those of us who come from these communities, who live in these communities, who understand these communities, know that people are struggling with the lived realities of systems that don't often work because they don't often look like us and are purposefully made to hold us back. And that is why centering Ready is so important in doing this work, right? We know that white supremacy doesn't fly by itself, right? It comes along with anti-Semitism, with homophobia, with all of the other things. Okay, so I was trying to think about, like, how do I explain the importance of cultural sensitivity, right? Like, how do I explain this to people? Because it can be counterintuitive. Like, Jordan, aren't we just asking people to vote for this thing? And I'm like, yes, that's true, right? But how many of us have experienced this, right? How many of us have been frustrated when we go during Christmas time out to vote and we see we go out to shop and we see displays like this, right? We see displays where it where it why is this night different from all other nights? I love this. Happy Hanukkah, or the Hanukkah ham, right? I think that, like, that's what it's like when we try to just plop into communities without any cultural understanding whatsoever. You end up with these sorts of displays. We need to lead with a ready lens to ensure that we aren't doing the same thing as these Hanukkah things. We need to partner with organizations that are grounded in communities that have those lived experiences, so that we can learn from them, we can listen from them, we can be in community with them, so that the work we do with them is more effective, right? And ends with the result that we want, which is victory on these voting rights, these voting issues. And so I love this quote from Hillel. It's obviously a famous quote. If not for myself, then who will it be for me? And if I'm only for myself, then what am I? And if not now, when? I think that it's like perfectly designed for a modern version of this quote, which is Lila Watson's. If you've come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. Those are the same quotes said differently. And that's what I love about what we're doing here today. We're combining these understandings. The rollback of voting rights, as it was after Reconstruction during Jim Crow, right? They were focused with limiting democratic access to marginalized communities. But its purpose was to enshrine a system of white supremacy that did not hold back from anybody they saw as outside. And you and I know that when they attack people of color, they are often not far behind attacking with anti-Semitism, with all the other things. I heard this quote on the radio, and I have loved it ever since I heard it. A really awesome activist who I've been trying to track down, but I couldn't quite find the name of who said it, said, that that the right wing unintentionally understands intersectionality better than we do. Yes, it comes with kooky and sometimes outlandish things like believing that we have secret lasers, but they definitely understand this. Like, they definitely hate us equally. They don't see a difference between homophobia and anti-Semitism and racism. They see us as bound together, and we need to see us as bound together. These are two quotes from two books, which I absolutely love, and this is where I'm going to leave you, which is the idea that relational organizing is this, right? Mia Birdsong from a book, How We Show Up, which is an amazing book. I cannot express I think you should read it. This is the hard work of interdependence, figuring out where I end and you begin. Community as a verb. The work of belonging takes us all. Through your RAC, your local RAC, your nationally, if we lead with the expertise and follow up with a ready lens, that necessarily means that we are going to be allowing people with the marginalized communities with marginalized lenses to lead with their experiences and teach us, inform us, be in relationship with us, so that when we go to interact with these communities, we're doing so authentically in community with them. And when we share our personal stories through those connections, to say that our humanities, our futures are bound together, and we need you because only together can we realize what we want to see. That is how the change is going to happen. There's this book from Relational Judaism, which is similarly saying the same thing, but it's about trying to get Jews back in. But I actually think it's about building community. And so again, it's a quote that I love. What really matters is that we care about the people we seek to engage. When we genuinely care about people, we will not only welcome them, we will listen to their stories, we will share ours, and we will join together to build a Jewish community that enriches our lives. I would only amend that to say, when we will share ours, we will join together to build community that enriches our lives. This is a way, I think, to build community. It is through a ready lens, understanding that people with lived experiences have expertise, that they haven't failed, they're not lesser than, but that their expertise have led them to a place, and together we're going to go together to where we need to be. And allowing groups and expertise to lead, we're going to be able to lead those communities. And so with that, I'm going to leave you off with somebody whose work I deeply admire. I love the Center for Common Ground. I just think it's an absolutely important and fabulous organization. And so now that we've learned about how to be an effective partner, it's time to hear from our partner organization, from the Every Voice, Every Vote campaign. We are partnering with and following the lead of Reclaim Our Vote, a campaign of the Center for Common Ground, whose mission is to empower underrepresented voters to fully participate in elections. We are honored today to be joined by Andrea Miller, Executive Director of the Center for Common Ground, and whose work, I'm not scripted to say, whose work I deeply admire. And so I'm just really honored to be kicking it to somebody whose work I look to, whose expertise I look to, whose leadership I look to, and we are very much blessed to be here with us, who will share with us Reclaim Our Vote strategy and the impact of postcarding. Andrea, please take it away, and I will end my slideshow and stop sharing, I think, if I can figure out how to. All right, I got it.
Jordan, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And you reminded me of my version of your quote, which I put in the chat. Your liberty is bound up with mine. Whatever I don't have, you stand to lose. And we are really, really, really seeing that reality today. So what I brought is I have a little slide presentation all about postcarding. Whoops, that's not what I want. I managed to lose it. All right, let's try that again. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I need to be in, here we are. I need to be in Canva. And as you can see, we are rolling out a brand new postcard this year, The Flower of Democracy. One of our partners had an equal rights amendment art contest, and this was one of the images from the art contest. So again, thank you, Jordan, for talking about our mission. And we've even expanded it so that now we have these things called democracy centers, which are in BIPOC communities, where exactly as Jordan said, 55% or more of the people in those communities have decided that they're not going to vote. And one of the slides I'm going to be showing you will be representative of one of those communities. So in 2020, we sent 9.4 million postcards, and the RAC was responsible for 400,000. Thank you so very, very, very much. We also sent 2.9 million text messages, and we made 1.7 million phone calls. 2020 is looking like a very normal year. We're going to have to do better in 2022. In 2021, we had very, very limited outreach to voters. So we did some work on climate with rural electric cooperatives on postcards. We sent postcards in support of S1 for the People Act. And the main election going on in 2021 was in Virginia. And while we did not get the ultimate result we would have hoped for, what we did end up creating in Virginia was a number of democracy centers that really managed to turn reluctant voters or infrequent voters into voting rights activists who work to get their fellow citizens to actually vote. Now, what's our work going to look like in 2022? In 2020, we did outreach to 14 million voters. In 2022, we're going to need to reach out to, I'm estimating, 24 million BIPOC voters. We're going to need to expand from 40 some odd thousand volunteers to 60. We're going to need to move democracy centers into Florida and Texas. And our goal will be to send 16 million postcards to voters. And periodically, my computer just freezes for no real reason. And there we go. And here are the states where we are going to be working. At Center for Common Ground, we work in states where at least 20% of the voting age population is BIPOC. And you can see from this slide, Texas, Florida, and Louisiana are already majority minority states. Right now, we're not waiting for it. North Carolina, Florida, Alabama, and South Carolina will be there in 3 to 4 years. So if you were wondering why the voter suppression is amped up and on double steroids, this is why. America as a country really and truly is changing. Now, currently, our postcard campaign right now is going to Black voters in Florida. And we are being far more strategic than we have ever been in our outreach. We are postcarding Black voters who did not vote in 2020 and 2018. Basically, everybody voted in 2020. Turnout was amazing. So we are reaching out to those voters who didn't vote. We have 1.2 million addresses available through voter letters. And you've got Jacob, and Jacob is your liaison. He will be able to hook you up with postcards. Now, we are postcarding. I want to talk about the effectiveness of postcarding. And I'm going to give 2 examples where nobody else was working in the area. And in Onslow County in 2019, no other modality touched voters. So in 2019, we were doing a voter registration or a voter re-registration campaign in Onslow County. Remember, that was the year that Congressman Walter Jones died, and North Carolina, 3rd District, had a special election. So we had 309 Black voters where we either didn't have a phone number for them, or we had a bad number for them. So those were the people that we postcarded. On average, Onslow County had 3 new voter registrations a month. 45 days after we did our postcard campaign, they had 79 new voter registration. Since nobody else was working in Onslow County at all or anything, we are able to say for absolute certainty, we can take credit for those new voter registrations. Now, Petersburg, Virginia. Petersburg, Virginia is actually where the Battle of Richmond was fought. It wasn't really fought in the city of Richmond. They weren't going to have them mess up the capital. It was fought in the city of Petersburg. Petersburg is an interesting and an amazing city because Petersburg had the greatest number of free Black people of any state in the Union. The Petersburg Ironworks produced all the fancy ironworks that you see in old New Orleans, and it was Black owned. Petersburg today, unfortunately, is a community that is 80% African American, and it is impoverished, with men having an average wage of $23,000 and women 19. So I wanted to give you a picture of Petersburg to give you some more understanding of these numbers. Now, Petersburg has not grown that much from 2009 to 2021. In 2009, there were 20,604 registered voters. And in that year, these are statewide election years. These are governor races. 6,000 of the 20,000 showed up and voted. And that said, there was a turnout of 29%. They got better in 2013. It went to 39,000. We started working in Petersburg in 2016 and 17. And we saw it jump to 42%. We didn't postcard in 2017. It was only phone banking. In 2021, we saw the turnout in Petersburg jump to 64% from 42%. Now, in Petersburg, as I mentioned, it's 80% African American. 40% of the people that we contacted voted. When we look at the people who only got postcards, 43% of those folks voted. These were people, again, where we didn't have any phone numbers. And because of Petersburg's condition, it's predominantly African American, it's low income. We were the only people working in Petersburg, Virginia. So I just wanted to give you some background on how wonderful the postcarding has been, helping us reach voters where we don't have any other way to reach them. No one's going to canvass where they live. And generally the phone numbers are so bad, we can't text them nor can we postcard them. So thank you all very, very much. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I love the RAC. You are some of our oldest and dearest friends. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you for your leadership and for outlining the strategy and impact of postcarding for us. We are excited and committed to helping Reclaim Our Vote achieve its mission by engaging our community. As a reminder, the two primary goals of the Every Voice, Every Vote campaign are to, one, strengthen the power of our base through relationship building, both within our communities and across lines of difference in partnership, and two, to protect democracy by combating voter suppression to ensure that everyone has access to the ballot box by turning out the vote and centering racial equity. Our goal is to reach 400,000 voters, so we need you. We just heard from Andrea about how sending postcards with Reclaim Our Vote is a powerful tactic to achieve this second goal. It also has the potential to help achieve the first goal if we practice some key tools and principles around relational organizing. You can unshare the screen now. We are going to hear a story about how Justin, a RAC leader in Massachusetts and the policy and phone bank team liaison at the Center for Common Ground, has done this in his community. Justin, can you share your postcarding story with us?
Absolutely. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Justin. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm coming to you from Sharon, Massachusetts. So I initially got started in all of this actually through the RAC's Teen Justice Fellowship, which if you're a young person on the line or if there are young people in your life, highly recommend. And from there, I started organizing a local group to do postcarding. So initially, we reached out to our synagogue social action committee. We put announcements in our Facebook groups, and then we put it in our newsletter. And then we also reached out to our broader community, not just through our synagogue. We have our local town's Racial Equity Alliance group that we reached out to, and then also just some other local Facebook groups. And we really made an effort. I mean, I was one of the people organizing, but we made an effort to really include youth in the process of getting our Temple Youth Group, which I was a part of, involved, and bringing in, I was one of the people organizing it, but bringing in other youth organizers as well as partners in this work to bring in their connections. And from there, as we initially started postcarding, and then with each successive round, because we did a couple of postcarding rounds as 2020 went on, we got more and more people as this postcarding effort spread through word of mouth. And we built up our existing volunteer base each time, eventually culminating to over 120 volunteers, and we sent nearly 10,000 postcards to voters. And throughout that whole process, we tried to build up a sense of community. I mean, we were doing this all virtually besides folks coming to our house to pick up postcarding kits. But we tried to build up a sense of community with virtual postcarding parties over Zoom. and hosting 1 or 2 voter suppression info sessions just to try to ground ourselves in this work and its importance with everyone. And really from there, after all that effort, I ended up getting more and more involved. I mean, I was first then phone banking with Center for Common Grounds with the Reclaim Our Vote campaign, and then started organizing more youth-focused phone banks for the campaign. And then from there, I was lucky enough to get brought on by Andrea's staff in 2021, where I remain today, doing a lot of this work around combating voter suppression. And I'm excited to continue organizing more postcarding rounds and more postcarding efforts locally and then also nationally. So I'm just excited to see where things lead.
Thank you, Justin, for sharing your story about how you mobilized your community to join the effort. I hope you all feel inspired to do the same and to engage your own community to get involved and build our collective power. Jacob will now teach us how to do just that.
Hi, good to see you all. Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Jacob Kraus-Preminger. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the RAC's campaign manager. Excited to be with you all. So we just heard from Justin's story about some of the things that he's done in his community to apply the principles around relational organizing and how that helped both build his base in his community and get people connected with each other and led to more people contacting voters. So that shows how those 2 goals that Lily was talking about just before, we want to combat voter suppression out in the world and strengthen our base, our relationships with one another, our relationships with our partners, really help to strengthen one another. The more we do one, the more it will lead to the other. And if we're intentional about bringing people together to write postcards, we can have an even greater impact than we did on their own. I love, Justin, what you said about postcard parties. Virtually, here's a picture of an in-person postcard party that took place in Maryland. Andrea shared really valuable information about the impact writing postcards can have on potential voters. I've also looked at some information, some studies of the impact of sending postcards on individuals. I know some of you have written postcards. I know some of you are writing postcards right now while you're on this call, which is wonderful. You know how good it can feel to write postcards. When people get together to write postcards, the data shows us they feel more positive about doing it, they have a greater sense of identity around it, and they're more likely to take action again. And we know that we're not going to get to 400,000 voters if folks just come together one time to do something or take a one-off action. We want to be building and building and building. Now, the fact that it's better to do something together is probably true of any action we're going to take, but let's use postcarding as an example of how we can apply some of these principles to our work. That's why our ask of you all coming out of this training is to host your own postcard parties, whether they're in person or virtual or over the phone or however it is you want to bring people together. We have a resource that is going to help guide you through this planning process. I'm going to walk through a little bit of it now. I know when I set out to plan an event, a lot of questions come to mind about the logistics, mainly about like the food. Is there going to be good food? But also where is it going to be and all that. These are really important questions. And we want to invite you all to start with some bigger picture questions when you're planning these events. So I'm going to share this action planning worksheet with you right now. It has a lot of information to kind of guide us through the process of planning any justice action, but today we're going to use postcarding and postcard parties as an example. So this is what it looks like. When we're planning a postcard party, we want to sort of go through a 4-step process. One is setting goals. The second step is doing your turnout. Third is actually getting your postcards and your logistics in order. 4th step, hosting your postcard party. And then the 5th step, I forgot, there's actually 5 steps, is follow-up. So when we're setting our goals, some really useful questions to think through. How many postcards do you want to send? We can estimate, maybe you all have different experiences in your own communities, that someone will send about 30 postcards in a single sitting. So if you're inviting people to a postcard party, you can maybe imagine they'll send 30 postcards. If you want to come out of your postcard party saying, we sent 360 postcards, then you need 12 people to show up. So we can do some organizers math around that. Then we ask the question of who do we actually want to be at this postcard party and get really specific. I know sometimes it feels like if I get really specific, I might not actually get to the numbers that I need. But what I find is that when I think really intentionally about who are the people I want in the room, at the event, in the Zoom, I get to the numbers I want because I'm thinking really intentionally about the people. And what do you want to learn about them? And what do they want to learn about each other? Then we can ask some of the logistics about the time and place and how to make folks feel engaged and comfortable and connected. And finally, always when we're setting goals, we want to think about what comes next. So maybe that's something in your community, maybe it's something connected to the wider Every Voice, Every Vote campaign, but make sure that's always a key part of your top goals so that everything you do to plan your postcard party is connected back to those goals. Then you're gonna want to get your turnout started sooner rather than later. Make sure you have a team doing turnout with you and make sure that a lot of the turnout's happening through direct conversations. I heard Justin say that a lot of the postcarding, his community spread through word of mouth. That's people talking with other people. Michael has put our links to order postcards, which you can start doing now in the chat. There's a special form to sign up to be a postcard group leader if you want to host that postcard party or bring people together in some way. And then there's also the way where individuals actually go ahead and order the postcards. I'm not going to go through it in deep depth now, but there's a sample agenda for a postcard party in this resource as well. And then finally, you always want to be thinking about what type of follow-up questions you want to follow-up conversations you want to have. Do you want to talk to those folks who came, but you didn't really get a chance to know as well? Or the people who were sort of interested in coming, but ended up not showing up? You want to tell them how good it was and like how much they missed out on, and then figure out what comes next. So this is just one piece of a bigger guide. And there's a lot more to this process. And we are actually going to walk through in greater depth. If you're like, I want to look even deeper at this agenda, I want to learn more about how to do turnout, starting next week in our Every Voice, Every Vote, Every Week calls. Starting on June 22nd at 8 p.m., just a week from today, we will start our weekly calls to focus on tools, skills, resources, build community. They're a place to build relationships with other folks in the reform movement and our partners to deepen relationships and engage in democracy protection work. So next week, we're going to dive deeper into the nuts and bolts of planning these postcard parties. If you come out of this call saying, I want to plan a postcard party in my community, but want to think through the logistics a little more. I want to ask some more questions. I'm like really curious about making sure that it's at the right time. That's a great place for that. And then on the 29th, we're going to practice doing some turnout. So once you've thought of who you want at that postcard party, we're going to have some time to learn a little more in depth about some of the ways we can do that and practice some turnout conversations with each other. So we hope to see you at those every week calls. But now we're going to give you some time to talk with some of the other people you're in this training with about both what you're learning and where you want to go from here. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to open up breakout rooms. You're going to be with 2-ish other people. And here's what we'd like you to talk about in your breakout rooms. Introduce yourself, share your name, your pronouns, where you are, and then share the following things. First, one aha key learning, light bulb moment from this afternoon's training, and then one specific step you hope to take from today. Here's some examples. If I were coming onto this call, I would probably want to come out with a date for my postcard party, and make sure you give yourself enough time to get the postcards in, do some planning. So maybe 3, 4 or more weeks out, Or maybe you already know the number of people you want to bring to that postcard party. So that can be your specific next step. Or maybe it's coming to the every week calls starting next week. So those are some possible examples, but really take that time to think, to share both your key learnings and one next step you want to take from this training. I think we are ready to go to breakout rooms. You'll be back at 55 minutes past the hour. So you'll have a full 10 minutes to be in breakouts with each other.
Give just 30 seconds for the breakout rooms to officially close and send everyone back here. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I know that was short, but I hope you were able to get some brainstorming in. All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I hope you all had meaningful and helpful breakout sessions and feel prepared to take your first step after leaving this training. So I would love to hear about what you discussed. So please drop in the chat the one specific step you'll take leaving today. All right, throw it in the chat. So after this training, we encourage you to use your postcard party planning worksheet to guide your relational organizing. These parties can be held virtually or in person. The sooner you start planning, the better. The skills and tactics outlined in the worksheet can be transferred to organizing and turn out for other activities as well. Great, I'm seeing the commitments flow in. Awesome. Great, ordering kits, postcard party in August, coming to next week's call. That's awesome. Great, I'm loving what I'm seeing here. So we will be providing a recording of the training and all materials and links you received on this call in a follow-up email later this week. If you're interested in organizing your personal network, join the mentor onboarding on June 21st at 8 p.m. To learn more about leading as a mentor. Starting next week on June 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will launch our Every Voice, Every Vote, Every Week campaign calls. Each week we'll focus on one featured tool, skill, or resource with plenty of time for Q&A. Some weeks we'll focus on an action opportunity during which we will phone bank or text bank or write postcards together and with our partner organizations. And whether you're new to Every Voice, Every Vote, or a seasoned leader, this call is an opportunity to build relationships with other reform movement leaders and activists and engage in democracy protection work in community. You can sign up and learn more at the link that Michael is dropping in the chat. For those of you in the Washington, D.C. area, we will be participating on June 18th in the Poor People's Campaign Moral March on Washington into the polls. We'd love for you to join us. I'll be there. We will be beginning the day with a Shabbat gathering led by Cantor Rosalie Will at 8:45 a.m. in Freedom Plaza before heading to the main rally together. You can RSVP at the link in the chat as well. And finally, June 27th starts the 4-part Ready workshop working group series. For those interested in starting or continuing the essential work of incorporating Ready practices and principles into your community, this series will provide you with the opportunity to learn how to create a DEI working group focused on utilizing the URJ congregational assessment so that you can identify both short and long-term goals and establish action plans towards creating an inclusive community for individuals and families from a wide range of backgrounds, including those groups who experience systemic disenfranchisement. You can find more information at the link in the chat as well. So thank you all for joining and for your participation. We look forward to engaging in this work and building our power with you. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Have a great one. Good night, everyone.